This is a study that was done by a gentleman called Larry Keeley. And it was a longitudinal study. He did it over a 10-year period. And the question he asked was, how successful are innovation projects? And so, as he looked at this, the first thing he observed was there are different types of innovation. So he put the types of innovation into 10 categories. So these are the 10 different types of innovation that Larry Keeley saw from the Dublin group people were investing in. Then he said, okay, how much investment is going into each of these areas? And this is what he saw. So he clustered this. The middle are offering, then business model, then customer experience. How much investment? Most of the investment centered around the offering. So if we were to look at your investments in R&D here and you were to follow this pattern, basically everybody in the room is trying to make their product faster, more robust, smaller, whatever the case is, and then you're trying to surround it with a system and services to really make it compelling. And you're trying to outdo your rivals in this investment. Then he said, where is the return coming from? Where's the ROI? And this is what he found. Investment, return on investment. So people are making huge bets, millions, billions of dollars of bets in trying to make their products faster, better, more robust, and nobody cares. He said that it's those companies that are investing on the outside, the business model and the customer experience. They're the ones that are enjoying the huge return on their innovation efforts. And he said it's not 80-20. 2% of the projects were generating 90% of the value. So let me talk about the winning strategic model. What can we do in this age of reformation, in this age of complexity, in this age of fast-paced change? How can we stay ahead and make sure we're successful? So the first thing is what I call this relationship life cycle. And if you've heard me speak before, you've heard this model, and I just keep harping on this. I really believe this is the key. And we come to this relationship life cycle when we change our perspective. Right now, what the industrial age gave us, this how to close every sale perspective, was a firm-centric view. And with a firm-centric view, what we have are prospects and customers. And the role of our sales force is to convert prospects to customers. But language matters. And embedded in language is perspective. And when you talk about prospects, when you talk about customers, immediately I'm going to ask you, whose prospects, whose customers, yours? So embedded in your language is your perspective. We said earlier, if we're going to be successful, we have to adopt the buyer's perspective. Rather than me sitting across from Don, trying to convince him to buy from me, I want to sit beside Don and help him. And that's a completely different model, different approach. So when we look at things from the buyer's perspective, there are actually 5 levels of relationship, not 2. All those people that we call prospects, that in your CRM, in your database, you have all these people that are prospects. They're not thinking of themselves as your prospects. They may not even be thinking about you. They're quite happy. They're doing millions of dollars, perhaps billions of dollars with their suppliers. You're just not one of them. So they see you as a stranger. When your salespeople are successful and convert them from prospects to customer, they haven't done the converting. The buyer is the one that does the converting. And they've converted you from stranger to supplier. So now you're a supplier. You're in their systems, you're logged as a supplier. In the past, this was the close. And from the vendor's perspective, this represented the culmination of effort. We started with investment, R&D, millions of dollars perhaps in this R&D. Then we packaged it with marketing. Then we educated the sales force with the features and the benefits. The sales force went into the marketplace and educated the customer. The customer agreed and took the product or the service. And we closed this long line of effort. We're done. Now we move on and we find somebody else. From the customer's perspective, they didn't see any of that effort. All of that effort that your firm invested means nothing to the customer. What they see now, when you close the business, is a whole bunch of effort on their part to actually make the product or service work for them. So now the work begins. This is not a time for you to check out, it's a time for you to check in. And in a sense, you're on trial. This is the trial phase. You made a promise. I bought from you based on that promise. Now let's see how you deliver. If you deliver below my expectations, because of your promise, your brand, I'm expecting this and you delivered this, you're out. I feel resentment toward you. If, however, I'm expecting this and you deliver this, wow, this is exciting. You've got my attention now. The challenge is, there's this dance. Sales is about promising the future. And the brighter the future, the more effective your salespeople are going to be. But if they paint such a bright picture that nobody could deliver that, you're in trouble. If they're so realistic that it's boring, you're in trouble. So there's this balancing act that they have to set the bar high enough that it's exciting, but low enough that your firm can jump over it consistently and never hit the bar, but get over it. Once you get over it, once you've delivered above my expectations, that moves the relationship to desired supplier. You've gone from a transactional relationship to an emotional one. Now I'm engaged. I'm going to come back. What else do you guys do? And the shift is from, okay, deliver your product or service, let's see how you do, kind of arm's length, to how can we work together? How can I help you in my firm? And this emotion is what opens the relationship. And this is the opportunity for us in the age of Reformation, is to use this desired supplier status as a platform to build a strategic relationship. We cannot build strategic relationships with our customers unless we first have an emotional relationship. We must have an emotional relationship first. That's what opens the door to a strategic one. But the transaction is the foundation, because this continuum is built on trust. And trust begins with a transaction. I'm gonna trust you, and I'm gonna give you my money, and I'm vulnerable. And if you come through, trust goes up. So the key here, and this is really the next part of this continuum, is not to ask the client to tell us what to do, but to ask the client for permission to follow them around. Now that I have this great relationship with you, do you mind if I move in and just watch you? You don't say it like that, but that's basically it. Because I want to understand your world, and you specifically. I have many customers, but you are a strategic customer. Meritocracy. So I'm investing in you, not in everybody else, because I want more customers like you. And so I want to follow you around and understand your world so I can see the emerging needs and I can create value there. When I've created value there, I want to find other people like you and promise them what I've done for you. And this really is where we're going next. As we move to a strategic relationship, the next level now is trusted advisor, where we've done such great work together, you're so consistent that I now open up to you in a way that is a strategic relationship. And this trusted advisor must be at a senior level. Okay? If you're a trusted advisor to a purchaser, that's not a trusted advisor. Okay? A trusted advisor must be at a strategic level. It must be with somebody who's concerned with the future of the organization. And they're sharing their vision of the future of their organization with you. And you become their trusted advisor, A, because of the consistency of delivery as a desired supplier, and B, because of your intimate knowledge of the customer. So this is the shift from what I call content. So down here you need content, but as you move to the strategic level relationship, you need context. And we were talking last night about, do I hire technology-focused salespeople, or do I hire business-focused salespeople? And the answer is, if you want to stay down as a supplier, then you need technical salespeople. You need people who are experts in your content. If you want to build a strategic relationship with your customer, you need business people as salespeople who utilize technical resources as part of the equation. But my experience is that technical resources have difficulty operating at these strategic levels because they're so filled with content. That's all they want to talk about. And they have difficulty diving into context. The highest level of relationship is the strategic alliance. This is where you have created so much compelling value for your customer that they're willing to enter a formal relationship with your firm. And that means they may entirely outsource whatever it is you do. They're going to get out of that business altogether and completely hand over the reins to your business and work with you as a partner. So these are the levels, and it really is a dance with your sales team where, as a stranger, what matters most when you're a stranger is your brand. So the company's image matters most. When you're a supplier, or to become a supplier, what matters most is the individual. The salesperson sitting across from me. Do I know him or her? Do I trust them? Do I feel comfortable with them? The individual. Desired supplier, it's the company. The company has to deliver consistently for you to be a desired supplier. Trusted advisor is the individual. Don is my trusted advisor. I don't call your company, I call Don, and I want to talk to Don. And you guys know in your round tables the kind of intimate discussion that takes place with a trusted advisor. I'm not going to do that with anybody, I'm going to do that with Don. Strategic ally is the company. So it's company, individual, company, individual, company. The enterprise life cycle. This is now the company, looking at the company and how it matures. Every company starts with an entrepreneur, with an idea. Even a company as big as Google, somebody had an idea. And so this is the entrepreneurial phase, the newborn baby. 80% of these companies die within the first 5 years. The next phase, if they're successful, they get to the performing phase. The performing phase, they have figured out what their value proposition is. And people are buying it and paying them for it. In the entrepreneurial phase, these companies die from starvation. They just can't get the cash flow in quick enough, and so they collapse. The performing enterprise dies from indigestion. They have figured out a value proposition that the market wants, and they've got a few people who are A players who can deliver this. But as they become successful, as there's more demand, they get stretched too thin. And they just cannot hire the right resources. They're running so fast they can't train them, so they collapse from being stretched too thin. To be successful, you have to become systematic. You have to put in systems and processes, talking about the algorithm level, where you can have now cheap labor or automation, but you definitely have consistency, and consistency creates trust. So now you can scale without breaking your promises. The problem with the systematic enterprise is it becomes internally focused. It gets completely engaged in its systems and processes, and it begins to ignore the customer. We're living in a changing world, and the customer's perception of value begins to change, and the systematic enterprise does not detect those shifts in the perception of value. So they become irrelevant. In order to stay relevant, they have to be adaptive. They have to become adaptive and detect how value, the perception of value is shifting, and make changes themselves to remain relevant. Problem with the adaptive enterprise is they're reactive, and they may not react quickly enough. So to really be successful in the age of reformation, your firm has to become preemptive. And it becomes preemptive, and this is going back to the question that, sorry, I forgot the name here. Greg had asked. We don't want customers to tell us what to do. What we want is insight into what they do, how they do it, what their frustrations are, so that we can now become preemptive. And I think Google and Apple are great examples of companies who understand their customers so well, they can anticipate what they're going to need next and bring to the market value that no one else has ever thought of. And it's rooted in insight, in customer insight. So this is the preemptive enterprise. What we do here, this is the strategic model that I want to get across. In an age of reformation, this is the model. We combine the enterprise lifecycle with the relationship lifecycle, creates 4 quadrants. We want to be in the winner's quadrant. The winner's quadrant says this: we have a sales engine that consistently picks right fit customers. The problem with the entrepreneurial enterprise is it is so starved for cash that anybody with a wallet will do. You're going to pay me, you're a customer. And we will do anything for that money just to stay alive. So the entrepreneurial firm begins to have a customer base that is completely illogical. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it's impossible to please the customer base because they're all over the place. The preemptive enterprise is very different. It has figured out what an ideal customer looks like and what right fit customers are. And it only invests in right fit customers. And that's how it creates value. And it then broadcasts that value to everybody else. And they can decide if that value is compelling to them. So it really is a partnership with their customers. Then they have this sales engine that consistently brings in these right fit customers and moves them up into strategic level relationships. When they have these strategic level relationships, they're gathering insights about these customers that their competitors can never gather, because their competitors don't have this closeness, this intimacy. So this intimacy is giving me insights that I'm bringing back to you as the chief executive. And you're taking these insights to navigate the ship. So in the winner's quadrant, the focus is not product. It's not service. It's not your offering. In the winner's quadrant, the focus is on strategic moves, constantly making the right strategic moves. And these are not bets. We're not guessing. We're collaborating with our best customers, and they're sharing with us insights that make us know, wow, if I bring this to this organization, they're going to pay me for it, because I understand the value in their economic equation. Here, we have the losers. We have an expensive cost model, and we have customers who don't want to pay us. They resent our profitability. They're constantly pushing down our price, and we've got an expensive infrastructure. We're going to lose. These are interesting, called the legends. Most technology companies who have any worth end up in the legends quadrant. It says, we are doing something that the market loves, and we can build strategic relationships with our customers. But we have built our company around our technology. And when the market changes and that technology becomes irrelevant, we don't know where to go. And so it's going to be remember those days, remember when, and we become a legend. We become a story of the past. The next quadrant I call the myths. These are large corporations with deep pockets that have what I call captured customers. They have fenced in their customers. And what they don't realize is their customers hate them. Their customers would love to leave. There's just no other choice. And I'll use my telco provider as an example. I don't particularly like my telco provider. But I don't have a choice. Because they'll come out with these cool gadgets And because I want the gadget, I'll agree to sign on for 3 years. And then I'm locked in for 3 years. If it was month to month, I don't know if I would be with my telco provider. I'd probably be with somebody else. So we really don't know the true value that that provider is creating. They've created a fence around themselves. So these I call the myths. We want to be in the winner's quadrant. This is the quadrant of deception. Nobody will speak truth to power. So they're so powerful, the CEO is so powerful, nobody's going to tell that CEO, we're garbage. This is the quadrant of poverty, the quadrant of seduction. We're seduced by our technology. We're seduced by the profitability that we're making. And profit is not an indicator of the future. Profit is an indicator of the past. Profit says you did something last quarter or last year that was meaningful. No guarantee for tomorrow. And finally, this is the quadrant of prosperity. So to be in this quadrant, you need to hand-pick your strategic customers. And you need to build and invest in strategic relationships with them in such a way that you access knowledge about them that none of your competitors have. And you can then detect what their emerging needs are, and you can build value around their emerging needs. And you need to cooperate with your sales force to do that.